Very special good morning, everybody, as we head towards the end of the week here. Already Thursday, Thursday edition of the morning briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest, along with one Mike Lubie, Mr. Sergey Bobrovsky, Mike Lubie Lubitz. You're always picking on somebody. There's always somebody that you're targeting. It's interesting. We have a lot to get into on the show. Certain things on the political scene. I guess it sort of morphs into the political genre, but it's not really a political issue. It's more about education. And I think we all need to reset our life goals, Lubie. I really believe this. We all need to reset our life goals. We'll get into that in just a sec. Meanwhile, Bet Online, your number one source for all your sports betting needs, and the seasons are changing. Yes. It's the time of the season, right? Start thinking a little bit differently, a little out of the box. From baseball, golf, soccer, on all the top fights in the UFC, MMA, and boxing. We could make some scores on boxing. We're pretty good boxing handicappers here. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, you can head on over to the online casino, get involved in a game of poker or blackjack, or unwind with one of the over 150 slot games that are available. Head to the website today and get in on all the action. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, one of our platforms, B-L-E-A-V, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. I thought there was a movement on Libya, and you can help me with this because you're more involved with education at this point than I am. I'm kind of out of it, heading in on 73. That's a big number. It's been flashing on the board with a steward's inquiry sign for some time now. But I thought one of the goals of education today and one of the aims, a lot of people seem to be directing sentiment towards the idea that forget about studying the various radius possibilities of an isosceles triangle or Pythagorean theorem or calculus. You want to get into math that is practical, something that is applicable, like how to figure out how to send in your own tax return, or minimize credit card debt, or prepare some kind of a budget, or learn how to buy a home, what's involved there, how you can save a lot of money. Practicality, I thought, was the aim of education today. Is that a fair statement, or is that just my pipe dream that we're heading in a direction that would be far more purposeful than teaching people a bunch of stuff that they're never going to use in their entire lifetime? What do you think, Libby?
No, I mean, people have talked about making school more practical and just the things we've always taught because that's what we teach. I don't know if they have. I know colleges have certain courses that are more useful. I know some high schools are doing that. I don't know if it's national curriculum yet. I'll have to admit that, which I find interesting. Like, a lot of people don't understand how to handle credit. A lot of people don't understand how to invest their money. A lot of people don't understand how to spend their money appropriately. But we teach it. It is true. I never used any of that math. I stopped math for sure in college because I knew I wasn't going to need fucking math.
Literally, I mean, we had slide rules and all this other bullshit when I was in high school, before computers were out there, and there were all these cockamamie schemes to come up with answers, even though the practicality of the work was completely foreign to everybody. But where I'm going with this, I mean, I really think it's absurd that this now intrusion and the going opposite of the whole concept of separation of church and state. Louisiana, are you following this story, Lubie? Where they're insisting that the Ten Commandments, which was the byproduct of some fairy tale that was written 500 billion years ago by some guys that were just trying to figure out, hey, how can we avoid eating pork? Just all of this stuff, it's just such nonsense, and yet they're going to force schools in Louisiana to post the Ten Commandments, and I'm thinking, how impractical is that? This is all fairy tale fantasy stuff. Why not get really practical? And if you're going to put a 10 Commandments up, and we've talked about this for years, that if they had degenerate math on the SATs, the entrance exam to get into colleges, we would have all gone to Harvard, Lubie. Never mind the items in a series where they go, well, what's the next number in the series? 2, 4, 6, 8. And you're thinking, got to be 10, huh? And you get that one wrong. Never mind all that. What we really are good at is you would say, hey, there's a carryover jackpot in a pick six pool of $276,000. If 1.5 million is bet into the pool that day and 36 people hold winning tickets, how much is the payoff going to be after the track takes out its usual 28%? And most of our friends, Lubie, could come up with an immediate answer. Yeah, it's going to pay $6,338.62. And you're thinking, wow, this is a guy literally that can't figure out how they got to $20 on the check they presented him at a restaurant when one item was $11 and the other was $9. We would be great. We would have been brilliant. We really could have aced this. So why not, at least if you're going to put up the 10 commandments, put up the 10 commandments of degeneracy. Something along the lines of thou shalt not ever poach another man's racing form, or thou shalt not ever lay points in a basketball game, even if it's in the postseason and you like the Celtics. Thou shalt not ever take a loan from a bookmaker or a loan shark that exceeds 6 points in juice a week. These are the things that you need to know. Never mind this other BS. I mean, it just seems totally impractical. And I mentioned we do have to reset our life goals, especially after what happened with Monty Williams yesterday. My God, Lubie. Wouldn't being a failed professional coach be the ideal goal, the dream job for virtually everybody? This man, just last year, after getting fired by the Phoenix Suns, now I'm not sure how justifiable that was. I didn't think he was the greatest game day coach when he was the head man for the Phoenix Suns. He had plenty of talent there. They won a lot of games in the regular season. They didn't win the big one. The owner there is a Meshuggah nut, some kind of radical, maybe among the most impatient, impetuous, and self-indulgent of all owners in sports. He's right up there in the top 5. And he fires Monty Williams after he wins Coach of the Year. We love that when that happens. It happened to us here. As we had the Marlins fire the Coach of the Year, Joe Girardi, after he just won the award. And it's, would be no surprise if they fired Skip Schumacher this year with the horrendous season the Marlins are having, although they have won a couple in a row now, which does that scare us at all, Lubie, or are we still online for the payoff on the season-long under of 79? I think that's a cinch. But it rarely happens, but it has happened in sports history. Now, Monty Williams gets fired as the Coach of the Year and surfaces with a team that has been telling us that they're about to put it together for what? Since the bad boy Pistons were there? They haven't been good since Bill Laimbeer body slammed Larry Bird to the wood way back in in the late 80s. It's amazing how bad this franchise has been. They've had top pick after top pick, and they can't do shit. They hire Monty Williams. You're thinking, well, maybe this will be a stabilizing element there. At least they're getting a coach that has some accomplishment. Just was the Coach of the Year. He's worked with older veterans. He should be very good. He seems to be a guy that can communicate, should be able to deal with these young kids and get them to go in the right direction. And what does he do? He goes 14-68, Lubie. 14-68 after signing a 6-year, $75 million contract, which I think was a shocker at the time. So meanwhile, the Pistons, who are absolutely the doormats of the National Basketball Association right now, I don't even know if they could beat the Indiana Fever, the Detroit Pistons. What do you think? If they played all of their games, all 82 games against the Washington Generals, they'd probably be lucky to be a 500 club. So what are you going to do with this? You knew there was going to be a stinkeroo. I don't think anybody anticipated that the Pistons would be this bad. Our good friend Grant Long, who's on the broadcast team for the Pistons, a 15-year NBA veteran, usually paints a little bit of an optimistic picture before the season when we talk to him about what's going on with the team. And sure enough, they end up falling flat on their face every year, well, year after year after year, including last year. So this guy gets to collect $65 million on this contract, Lubie. Why wouldn't we want to be a failed professional coach? How could that not be one of the highest of aspirations that any young man could achieve? Where if you put that in your high school yearbook, they said, what do you want to do, Mike Lubie Lubitz? You say, I want to be a failed professional coach. And the guidance counselor says, brilliant, brilliant. And you hold up any number of examples of guys who have got paid off zillions of dollars for doing a perfectly god-awful job and then persisting and ending up collecting the guaranteed contract that they have coming. So Monty Williams, our congratulations. You're our man of the year. $65 million to do absolutely nothing after going 14-68 with an NBA team that had any number of top 5 picks on the roster. Pretty incredible job if you can get it. Speaking of coaches, by the way, did you see what's going on with Bill Belichick? No longer coaching. He's banging his 24-year-old and was seen shirtless coming out on the ring, whatever that thing is, door ring. They have a video of Bill Belichick coming out of this woman's house. Her name is Jordan Hudson. Not that she should be shamed. At 24 years old, Bill Belichick is 72. That I mean, that defies the math. I mean, we have a formula of how young you should go before you're considered some kind of pedophile. No, Lubie? And that is, you take your age, for example, you were what, 41? 41. Okay, so we're going to round that off to 40. Actually, we could do it with 41. You divide that in half, and then you add 7 years. And that should be the lowest category that you dive into in terms of chasing younger females if you're a guy. So in your case, let's make it 20 just to make the math simple, since we didn't learn a lot of practical math. We were studying isosceles triangles. And so the youngest girl that you should be with would be 27. Does that make sense? You're 41 years old, 27.
29, so I skated that line.
No, but as long as you're within the guidelines, within the parameters, then you're not a sick fuck like Bill Belichick is right now.
Yeah, 50 years is a lot.
A 50-year differential.
That could be a grandfather. Yeah, I mean, you could have a grandchild that age, honestly.
I mean, Belichick was in the audience when Mays made the catch. The Polo Grounds against, he was going, I can't believe he robbed Vic Wirtz of that surefire inside the park home run. Incredible. But wow, I mean, that's, what do you make of that, Lubie? Should we be viewing that with a little bit of a fisheye or thinking, hey, congratulations, Bill, way to go, man? Because he has to, obviously, at 72, be able to keep pace with this woman. What is he, gargling with Viagra? What the hell? I can tell you, it's no picnic getting old. No picnic getting old. All right, the sporting world, we're still schwitzing a little bit here, Lubie, on the Stanley Cup. What do you think? I don't know why, as confident as I was that the Panthers were going to win Game 5, wrap this thing up, and give South Florida its first ever championship in the sport of hockey, is improbable a development as you could have ever imagined. Even going back to the optimism that it was associated with this team and sort of infiltrated the franchise from the very beginning, you would have thought Stanley Cup, South Florida, a Miami team, essentially not happening. So now we've had 2 chances at it. Last year, of course, it was a little bit rough and kind of improbable. An 8 seed gets all the way there, beats a bunch of monsters out of the Eastern Conference, goes against the Golden Knights, who are on fire, and they do it while being completely crippled. Yes. With all of their star players basically in body casts as they go out there for Game 1. They drop the puck, and these guys nearly passed out right there in the first game. They end up losing. It was a convincing beating on the part of the Las Vegas Golden Knights last year. This year, going into the Stanley Cup Final, you're thinking, we got this, right? And all of a sudden, 3-0, and with 4 swings at closing the door. They lose Game 5, the Florida Panthers, and now have to schlep all the way back to the bastions of nowhere, which would be Edmonton. I mean, I don't even know if Sergeant Preston, remember that show with Sergeant Preston of the Yukon? I don't even think he could find this with a fucking dog sled, Edmonton. So you have to go there, and I noticed this, Lubie, the odds, and this was kind of interesting, for the Conn Smythe now have changed dramatically. This would be the most valuable player of the Stanley Cup Final Series. You know who the favorite is? Prohibitive favorite at minus 175. You have to lay 175 to 100.
First McDavid.
Connor McDavid, who was doing nothing in the first couple of games. When they fell behind 3-0, everybody was like, hey, this guy's done a disappearing act. Where the hell is he? Who is he? D.D. Cooper? My God. But now minus 175. Barkov would be the second choice. So you're getting 2.5 to 1 on Sasha Barkov, who has been brilliant. And you would have to appreciate his all-around play more so than just looking at point totals, but he has been effective in the scoring column, especially with brilliant assists. I mean, when he sends that thing slaying across the goal mouth there's a pretty good chance for Hagee or Reinhart or Bennett is going to get a stick on the thing. And boom, right by Skinner, and the Panthers will find a way to win, scratch out the cup. My man Bobrovsky has gone from 4-1 at the beginning of the Stanley Cup Final to now 7-1. Did he lose any chance he had of winning the Conn Smythe, even if the Panthers shut out Edmonton in this next game?
No, look, if they win the series on a shutout, he'll probably get the Conn Smythe. He'll have 2 shutouts in the Stanley Cup Finals. But the last 2 games were dreadful. I mean, he gave up 5 goals and 4 goals, and a lot of it was the defense's fault, fine. But if a goalie wants to win the Conn Smythe, you can't give up 9 goals over the course of 2 games. Like, that's...
yeah, essentially, that was it. I mean, in 3 periods, he gave up 9 goals. He was lifted a period and a half into the first game, which was Game 4. He had been giving up 5, and then by the time they got to the midway point of the second game, he'd already given up 4. 9 goals in 3 periods. No, not going to happen. You're right. Now, can Connor McDavid win this thing, even being on the losing team? What are we talking about here? Jerry West? Is this going to be a commemorative tribute to Jerry West?
He hasn't been that great. The thing he did with the back-to-back 4-point games is something I guess only Gretzky did. But then he had 2 to 3 games actually where he did nothing.
Zip.
He's had 2 really good games and 3 shit games.
You need a search warrant to find McDavid.
Look, if they win, it's going to go to him because no one else on the
team. He wins, no doubt.
No, that's the funny thing is the rest of their team hasn't. Draisaitl hasn't done anything. Hyman still hasn't. I don't think has scored, but McDavid's put up 2 really good games. Again, there's been 5. So no.
Make that the 11th commandment. Put that right up there in those Louisiana classrooms there. Let those elementary school kids know that laying 175 on the guy who's on the losing end right now of a 3-2 score in the Stanley Cup Finals is probably not wise. It's not practical, but people are going to do it. Obviously, or they wouldn't be able to put a price out like that. Pretty incredible. All right. So what do you think, Lubie? We still have another day to decide on this, but as certain as I was that the Panthers were going to go ahead and close it out in Game 5, and then you watch the early portion of the game, they're getting buried. I am fairly confident that somehow this is going to end up going to a Game 7 now.
And see, I don't think that. I know that's everyone's prevailing.
Everybody thinks that.
Thought because that's what they want. It was like they wanted them to close down 5, so they're going to close down 5, which I didn't agree. I didn't assume they were going to close down 5 after the horrendous performance in Game 4. And then now it's like, okay, well, now it has to go to 7. I'm like, no, you can split the difference. They've been really good on the road. They won. One of their most dominating performances in this series was on the road, Game 3 at Edmonton. I don't see why that is just being forgotten. The fact that they played they played a period and a half really strong and 2 pretty good to strong periods, to me, is all I needed to see from them. I think they found their game. I think they realized, okay, they're not going to just give us this. We do have to play with some urgency. I feel a lot better about Game 6 than I did Game 5. I know South Florida was bringing out the champagne. I wasn't. That Game 4 was an abomination.
It ended up being Boone's Farm Apple at my house.
Yeah, it was a joke. I mean, look, game 5, they woke up and they, if not for 2 weird ass penalties against them, I think they tie it and win it. So to me, they wrangled back a little bit of the momentum. Not most of it. It still is with Edmonton. You win 2 in a row, you're going home. But they wrangled back a little bit that they themselves in their locker room can still have that feeling. They've been really good at just getting through. Maurice is great at not being too high or too low. They needed to do something like that. They did it in Game 5. I feel a lot better about Game 6 than Game 5. I think Edmonton's going to be up. I think they're now going to think that they're going to coast because McDavid's awake. But no one else has done anything on their team. And when they do anything and they're left alone, they score on fucking Skinner. They scored 2 goals in like 6-7 minutes, and they would have scored probably 3 or 4 goals if the refs stayed the fuck out of it. So there's only so much the refs can do every fucking game. Like it was horrendous Game 5. I don't see how they can do that again. Back-to-back games totally be one-sided like that. It's the Stanley Cup Finals. Keep your whistle in your goddamn pocket. Let them play hockey. Unless a guy gets freaking annihilated. They were calling such ticky-tack bullshit. You know,
it's amazing how many tangible things and reasons you can find why a game was decided one way or the other in a game that's totally abstract.
Yeah, it's a bullshit-ass game.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah. So we'll see. We're still hanging on. As we always say, we love the smell of panic in the morning, and there is a clear-cut panic all around South Florida. That you certainly don't want to blow the series now and end up being labeled as perennial chokers.
No.
Wow, the embarrassment of being the first team since 1946 to blow a 3-0 lead in the Stanley Cup Final. That's the kind of stuff that puts you perennially in the category of the infamous. And that is a category that you clearly want to avoid. All right, we have an interesting development happening here. One final note on the morning briefing. We're expanding our horizons here. We've been bringing you experimenting a little bit with our Daily Degenerate on the Wednesday edition of the program with one of our handicappers, Troy West. Guess what, man? The man is 5-0 on the show.
Oh, he hit it.
5-0. He had the Guardians. I mean, he's picking games that you might never consider. He is from Seattle. So he noticed a real downward turn with the Seattle Mariners. They couldn't get out of their own way. Goes with the Guardians against them. And the Guardians shut out the Mariners yesterday, 8-0. So that made the man 5-0 on the program here, Troy West. on our Wednesday show. Now, our goal, our mission is to bring you a different handicapper as part of the program every day, give you something that you can at least take a look at and say, all right, I like this man's thinking. I'm going to go ahead. Nobody's going to win every game, but off to a rocking start with this. And congratulations to our friend Troy West there. Another winner. So he's had 3 baseball winners and a basketball parlay in 4 appearances on the show. Not too bad. As we say, Lee Pete fashion, the man is on fire. It's great. All right, Lubie, you have a great day, and we will see everybody again tomorrow, Degenerate Friday edition of the program. A lot of fun being with you. I don't know about this 10 Commandments thing, Lubie. I mean, look, we're coming from a position where we are flaming liberal Jews. Lubie and I are both in that dynamic and demographic, and we don't want to argue politics here. Even though I wouldn't believe a word Trump said if his tongue was notarized, we just don't want to get into a lot of controversy. And there may be people, whatever your opinion is about the Bible, that's fine. But don't stick this thing up in these classrooms. It's horrendous.
I like living in a country, and I say past tense because that's not how it is anymore, where we don't force religion down people's throat. You're religious, go for it. That's
great. Yeah, believe whatever you want.
Some people aren't, and it's not fair to force that down someone's throat. The separation of church and state was a real thing. I don't care. The far right now is like, well, it doesn't say it in the Constitution. Yes, it does. In a million different ways, it says it in the Constitution. It was.
This is a dangerous precedent to set.
Of the Constitution was the separation of church and state. It's widely known. You can be religious. No one's stopping you. You can even send your kids to a religious school, which I think is weird.
Do what you want.
But public schools are not religious for a reason. There's not one religion in America. We don't have a definitive state religion. So that was the whole point. Originally, they came here, yes, to do their Christianity, because over in Europe it was very Catholic and they were Protestant, but that was still not doing that country's religion, right? They were starting from scratch with the idea of openness religion-wise. I just don't understand it. It's a weird look. Be religious. I don't give a shit. Vote for whoever you want. But why are we in this place where we have to shove it down other people's throats?
It's dangerous, my friend. It's dangerous. These people are crazy. I mean, I love the gumbo, but this is a pot of shit that they're perpetrating on people. And an ironic degenerate note on that. I'm watching the Royal Ascot races from England, which is a big deal over there. It's kind of like their Breeders' Cup or whatever. Everybody's decked out, top hats, tuxedos, the whole thing. It's a very elegant, kind of interesting, fun way to approach thoroughbred racing. 20-horse fields. And I see a field, and I'm thinking, wow, is this not a direct reflection of the upcoming presidential debate? So I pick out the 2 horses. One is named Pledge of Allegiance, and the other was Divine Comedy. And I thought, that is perfect. I mean, that just epitomizes what this thing is all about right now. And so I box them in exactas, and sure enough, Pledge of Allegiance on the wire, Divine Comedy hustling up to be in second, and a nice score in a 20-horse field on a Royal Ascot exacta. All right, we have to get out of here. Thanks so much for being with us. Practicality, that's what it's all about. Never lay points. That should be the number 1 commandment on the 10 commandments that they post there in those Louisiana 6th grade classes. Never lay points. All right, for Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of the Morning Briefing.